The other issue I wanted to talk to you about this morning was the budget yesterday and a particular provision of it. It's something that we've discussed on the platform, and it was this. And the question is, why is Radio New Zealand getting any funding at all? That's the question. One of the highlights, or lowlights, talking points of the budget yesterday was that the 100% state-funded Liberal left propaganda agency, otherwise known as Radio New Zealand, is to receive an 18% revenue cut over the next 4 years. You would have heard that on all the media and all the coverage of the budget yesterday. Now, when I say revenue, I mean direct taxpayer infusion of other people's monies. It's your and my funding, our hard-earned tax dollars. Radio New Zealand doesn't actually earn any revenue from any other source. It's a direct welfare recipient. Now, Radio New Zealand, you might argue, is the apocryphal, in actual fact, bloated beneficiary bludger. It's actually received a cash injection of $26 million in 2023 as Grant Robertson sprayed everything with money as he was leaving, remember? Before he decamped to his $600,000 plus salary in Otago and a rather nice grace and favour harbour residence courtesy of the same woke institution that he now heads. That's what you see. You get a BA from Otago, you can end up there. Now, that was on top of a $7 million annual boost that Radio New Zealand received the previous year. And understandably, the Labour government was rewarding Radio New Zealand for all their left Liberal reporting and the shutting out of all Conservative voices in that propaganda unit. And I mean all. There's not one Conservative voice on Radio New Zealand. It doesn't represent New Zealand. It represents a Liberal left portion of New Zealand. Now, National was silly enough last year to keep Radio New Zealand's base funding with all its managerial and salary excesses, and they kept it in last year's manager. And you might ask, well, finally they seem to have wised up, that they're funding an anti-coalition government organisation, the same organisation that isn't even in the top 3 of radio rating stations in this country. So let's just get this quite right? It doesn't rate in the top 3 radio stations of this country. I think News Talk ZB's number 1, but it doesn't rate 1, 2 or 3. I think it's 4th or 5th and sinking like a stone. Oh, by the way, all those other radio stations receive zero money from the government. They create their own revenue and their own programming. Now, the PIGAF fund that we all criticised, and rightly so, has gone now. They are effectively and financially on their own. There's no prop-up. If they don't make money, they don't have jobs. They don't have a radio station. Not so Radio New Zealand. Their staff numbers during the last couple of years, they've actually increased from 309 to 347. No other media organisation in New Zealand has increased its numbers, but Radio New Zealand has by what? At least 10%. 145 of their staff earn over $100,000 a year, according to last year's annual report. That's 2024. I'm sure it's gone up since then. And they have a bloated senior management earning much more than their private sector equivalents. And there are more of them, just in numbers. And they're losing audience on a yearly basis. Now, their annual budget is now $66 million a year. So taking $18 million off them over 4 years, yes, it's 18 divided by 4, isn't the kind of surgery that I was expecting, I have to say. The bloated beast remains. It continues to spew forth its woke bile, its palpable political bias, and its agenda to get rid of this government and install its old mates, Labour, the Greens, and especially Te Pāti Māori, for whom it acts as a kind of unofficial campaign manager, if the over-the-top and sympathetic or empathetic hikoi reporting of this year was any indication. And it was. Ironically, the Labour-appointed chair of Radio New Zealand yesterday, Jim Mather, put out a press statement in the wake of this minor budget trimming, saying that they were disappointed, especially as they are, quote, facing the headwinds affecting the wider media sector, which, as you might expect, is a lie. It's another state-funded lie. They face none of the same pressures as the rest of the media sector. They aren't reliant upon advertising revenue and sponsors in a difficult economic environment and having their salaries and evidence and existence even determined by competition and ratings. Not at all. Radio New Zealand still live on welfare. They've just had their chocolate biscuits for morning tea replaced with the ubiquitous crispy. They can still afford the filet mignon for dinner and the silver service that brings it. The government botched it yesterday. They had the opportunity to deliver millions, tens of millions of dollars more for better trained teachers, for better equipped police and a better public health service. But instead they chose to prop up a bunch of overpaid and under-listened to lefties in Auckland and Wellington. Well, all I can say to Broadcasting Minister Paul Goldsmith is this: don't say you haven't been warned. Enjoy your next hostile interview on Morning Report and your next bias podcast on what a bastard you are, and all of your mates are bastards too. Because this is a dog that really does bite the hand that feeds it, and it will continue to do so. Those also are my thoughts this morning. Yours